Hi, it's me, your boyfriend slash girlfriend slash day friend, favorite content creator. And I wanted to make this video because if we're being truthful here, I think this is goddamn hilarious. So do you guys remember a little indie game that was coming out called Ghost of Yotei? Do you remember all of the clearly manufactured drama around that game, right? People try and talk about how, oh, the Sucker Punch employee who made this joke about Charlie Kirk is bad. That's why the game's gonna tank. Or more commonly, oh, this is a female DEI woke game that replaced a male protagonist and it won't sell well. That was the line they had before. But then the game came out. And then something interesting happened. Suddenly, everyone who was like, nope, this game's definitely going to flop. It's a failure. It's a flop. We're singing a different tune. It didn't happen all at once, but of course it happened, because what began as just simply the game's going to be a flop, it's woke DEI, shifted to, well, the game won't sell as much as Ghost of Tsushima, and now it's simply, well, look at the install base. It's only sold 3 million because the game sold 3 million in 1 month. It only sold 3 million in 1 month, but the install base is like almost 100 million. So only like 3% of people actually own it. And it's just the most insane cope you are going to see, at least for this week. And the reason I want to talk about this is because, again, I think it's funny that so many of these grifters with zero instincts in terms of what games are going to pop, what games aren't, are once again showing you why you should not take anything they say at face value. You should quite simply never believe them ever. They are never correct. You had the mainstays talking about how they have people and these people have numbers, and their numbers are saying, oh, it looks bleak for Ghost's Yotei. It looks like it's bad, but they never put the numbers up. But then suddenly when Sony's confirmed these numbers, now it's, see, I told you guys, it was bad. The game did terribly. Look, Ghost of Tsushima sold 2.3 million in its first like couple of days, and it sold 5 million in 4 months. Or sorry, 5 million in 5 months. Meanwhile, in 1 month, Ghost of Yotei is already at 3.3 million. You see where I'm going with this, right? Ghost of Yotei is either on pace or exceeding the pace of Ghost of Tsushima. And what these people won't tell you is that Ghost of Tsushima came out when the PS4 was at the tail end of its lifespan, meaning most of the people who were going to buy a game or buy a console had already purchased it, and it released during peak COVID. It came out in the summer of 2020. Peak COVID. That is when everyone was home. Remember when everyone sheltered in place? Remember that same time period where everyone who was doing content creation saw a huge spike, especially Twitch streamers, because people were stuck indoors? And on top of that, the PS4 was a cheaper console than the PS5. Availability wise, it was way more abundant than the PS5, and the PS5 games cost more. So there are already limiting factors for the PS5, and still, despite that, Ghost of Yotei has sold over 3 million. And so then my next favorite line of defense is, well, it's a flop because it only sold 3 million. And like I mentioned before, the install base is so high. I talked to someone about this online, and I'm not going to show their stuff here because they weren't being dicks. I was just annoyed because I hate that so much. We have never, in the history of talking about video games, ever gave a shit of how many games were sold or how many copies a game sold in comparison to the total availability of the console that's on. We've never done that. We've never done that because otherwise almost every game would be a flop of that metric. Oh, this game sold 30 million copies, but the PS4 install base was 200 million. I'm making it up, but like was 200 million. It's a flop. Oh, this PS2, oh, Metal Gear Solid. Well, that series only sold 13 million copies on a PS2, but the PS2 had 120 million people who owned it. Therefore, it's a flop. Like, no. if we're going to talk strictly about finances, you judge a game's success based off of how much money they've recouped after development costs. So if they've just broken even, not a great success. If they've made a profit, now we're talking about the scale of success, right? They are saying that Ghosts of Yotei and Ghost of Tsushima cost roughly the same amount to develop, which is around like $60 million. And even if we do the movie estimates where you take the developmental cost and then you double it for promotional cost, right? So $120 million. In 1 month, they've made roughly $230 million in 1 month. So even if you were going to go it didn't make its money back route, not only would you be wrong, but even if you were grossly overestimating the cost, they would still be over $100 million in the black. Okay? They made a profit. The game was profitable. And logically speaking, if it wasn't a profitable game, why would Sony even come out and confirm the sales number? For what? Is Sony now in the pocket of big woke? Is Sony and Sucker Punch now so concerned with this bullshit culture war that they're going to fake numbers in order to get one over some loser who makes AI video games? Like, but this is the world that they live in. They live in a world where a game that sold 3 million copies in 1 month is a failure. They live in a world where, because it didn't sell as many copies as the original did at this point in time, it's a failure. Not even going to get into the factors that would have, hindered its growth, so to speak. It's just a failure to them because it has to be. This is all they have. There is no logic in the universe that will get them to move off of this because they have a vested financial interest in making sure that all the content they put out about this game, whether it's one video or like some losers might do and make 21 videos on it, they need to poison the well. I have been beating the drum about this and I will continue to do so until these people go away. They do not care about games. They just want you angry so they can profit off of you. You're literally seeing them hallucinate an alternate reality in which Ghost of Yotei is only a success because Big Woke is pulling their strings. They cannot fathom a game that they have been shitting on for months, ever since they found out that Erika Ishii was going to be the main character, right? They're talking about, oh, she's an Antifa activist, bunch of pronouns, and that's bad, and the Sucker Punch employee is bad. But guess what? That employee got fired, which is what you wanted. So now what? Oh, but Erika Ishii, well, they already made the game. Oh, but we're gonna boycott it. No, you're not. Because you losers were never going to buy the game in the first place. And like I've been saying too, regular normal people do not pay attention to this shit. For better or for worse, they do not pay attention to this. If people were as terminally online as the content creators, and I guess myself included in that, right? Then Harry Potter, the Hogwarts Legacy game would have flopped with how much hatred people have towards J.K. Rowling online. But off the internet, people know J.K. Rowling as, that's the lady who made my favorite childhood series. She's the best. Of course I want to buy this game because I want to be in Hogwarts. That's the truth. No one's going to be like, oh man, I can't play this game because Atsu's woke and it should have been Jin Sakai. Because most normal people probably played the first game when like, Jin's whatever, the game rips. So as long as the game's cool, I'm here for it. But they don't have that perspective. They lack that perspective. I literally spoke to a coworker about this because he's also into video games and anime. So we were bonding. And I was just telling him just the smallest percentage of shit that happens in this space. And he was like, what are you talking about? When we were talking about the Wolverine trailer, he was hype. He was like, there's Omega Red, there's Mystique. And I was like, people are mad about Mystique. And he literally gave me the like confused Pikachu face because he was like, what are you talking about? Mystique was in there for like half a second. And I'm like, yeah. And people are saying her ass is too flat and she looks like a man. And he was like, but Wolverine, which is, again, what normal people would do. But these people aren't normal. They created this entire fucking narrative that this game was going to fail. Because again, that's the world they live in. Things don't have to be consistent, right? Because then when Hi-Fi Rush came out, everyone unanimously loved it, and the studio got closed. No one said, oh, it's because Hi-Fi Rush was woke, because Hi-Fi Rush is very woke by their standards, because the main character you play as is constantly upstaged by the female protagonist. Constantly. I want to say emasculated, all that stuff. Constantly. But people love the game. But the studio closed. And no one called it woke garbage. No one says because women were being too girl bossy. Because they like the game. But now that Assassin's Creed came out, and they're like, well, Ubisoft had to sell out for Tencent because Assassin's Creed was so bad. But now with Ghost of Yotei, they can't say that because it is a success. It is a certified success. It is a hit for Sony. It's a hit for Sucker Punch. In 1 month, at the end of the year, it was already the 18th best-selling game in the United States 2 days after release. And in 1 month, 3 million copies sold. There is no math that can erase that, but they're still going to try. And I just think that level of cope is so fucking hilarious because they are telling you blatantly and boldly and repeatedly not to trust any of their statements because their statements are not rooted in any material reality. They live in a world where a game selling 3 million copies in a month is a flop. You'd be hard pressed to find a developer that would be upset at selling 3 million in 1 month. But in these grifters' estimations, everyone who's ever going to buy this game ever has already bought it. It's not like they're heading into a major holiday season where most people are going to be home. It's not like November, December, January are big financial months because people are, home and able to buy games, and there's a month where you're buying gifts for each other. That means nothing to them because they don't live in reality. They live in this delusional world where everything that they think is happening no matter what. And if you think I'm, lying, go watch my video when I'm talking about, when I am dissecting the debate between Smash JT and Colin Moriarty. Smash JT can't even understand the data he's presenting. He thinks that Circana is making up their data points because Circana is somehow invested in the online culture war, and they would rather torpedo their entire business plan than report the truth. That is how deep this delusion of theirs goes. They think a company in a capitalistic society is more interested in winning brownie points in an imaginary online culture war than making cold, hard cash. And I can't summarize that any better. If you're still following these people, I think you need to see a therapist or get some sort of CAT scan done, because these people are dumb, but if you follow them and believe them, you are much dumber than they are.